Welcome, everybody. I hope you guys have a fun day today. We're going to go over kind of a tough subject, but it's a very important subject. And I'm going to get definitely a lot of feedback from Coach Jen and Coach Molly on their personal experiences as they go through this. As we get into this, I think the most important thing is about the symptoms. It's just like about the CMPs, about everything else. It's the symptoms that the veteran goes through and displays on a daily basis. That is the most important thing for, I would say, the family to not only understand, but to kind of really get into it and talk to their veteran about how do they feel about, this type of situation, or how does this affect them? And by doing that, it really brings the family together. So, what I would like to do is start with Jen. How, when you're actually in a situation and you've learned all of this, how do you adapt to help the veteran not only get through that, but to also help the family to understand?
So I'll actually go back a little bit. One thing that really helped me to be able to understand was going through these processes and understanding the symptoms and impairments and how they manifest um, very similarly with almost all of our veterans. So being able to coach coach my veterans through their processes to their CMP exams, helping them make their identifications. I always reference or refer my veterans to if you have a spouse, you have somebody that's very, very close to you, bring them into this process of identification. And this is really going to open up a dialogue for you guys, but also help that spouse, daughter, caregiver to understand what it is that's manifesting as a symptom. So, for example, my husband's a combat vet, and there's a lot of social anxiety that is really trained into him. That hypervigilance, that level of suspicion, and as the anxiety ticks up, for some veterans, it manifests as irritability, anger, the anxiety as it rises, become more volatile. Their personal bubble becomes smaller.
It is important that everybody understand where somebody's coming from. Now, Coach Molly, your experiences might be a little bit different. Is there anything that you do to adapt? Because I mean, you got little ones and stuff like that also. So, is there anything that you're doing to adapt, knowing that okay, this is maybe a trigger point or something like that?
Yeah, and it is different with little ones. I feel like I've talked to a lot of veterans, and a lot of their PTSD symptoms or the mental health symptoms, they get heightened when there are more dependents, and especially children involved. Especially like with me as a mom. I changed so much when I had children. It's just a different role that you have to play, and that's much like veterans. Your role is always changing, and so yes, when there are kids involved as well, that changes. So the triggers might change, your response, and situationally, especially in restaurants as well, the more people you have at the table, the more, overview they're going to want to have of the exits and all of that. So yeah, it definitely changes. But again, just making yourself aware of that and aware of the veteran or your loved one's triggers, getting ahead of it can not only help you cope, but it can also help, your veteran cope and manage those situations better too.
One of the main things that we're taught from day one is look out for your buddy. So when we come out, that's what we're doing is still that protection type of thing that's going on. And we really have to watch that. But we need to let everybody know that's what I'm doing. I'm not acting like this because I just want to be, out there. I'm acting like this is because I'm triggered. I need to have these type of things to help me. And with what your two are saying, it's perfect because when the family again understands this, the family is going to respond in a way to where it's going to help not only the veteran, but it's going to help everybody. So when you have kids too, it's not that bad of an idea to let them in on just a little bit. Hey, look, dad's going to do this, or mom's going to do this, or that way the family fully understands what's going on. And then they become part of that protection circle. They become part of that protection of helping the veteran. And I think that that's where I know my anxiety when people around me that know, my little things, when I get to that point and they know it, they're protecting me. Like, okay, I need to open this up a little bit more. I need to scoot over here so he can see that. That'll lead the veteran to go like, okay, cool, man. I'm still part of the fire team here. I've still got this going right. That will calm that down just a little bit. It's just a natural process.
I think that there's definitely an element of control that contributes to level of depression and anxiety with veterans as well. You're trained to be large and in charge. I got this. I can handle this. I've been in command. Even if you've not been in command, you're still trained that you've got this. You can do this. You can handle this. And for a veteran, when they're starting to get that feeling that maybe I don't got this, maybe I'm not taking care of my people the way I should be taking care of them. I'm not able to keep all my lids on all my pots. And veterans can crash hard. This is a pride thing that I'm not maintaining. I'm not making enough money. I'm not making everybody happy. My kids aren't listening to me. Gosh, now I'm not getting, something's going wrong at work. And when they feel like their lids are not on all their pots, and this is normal. I mean, this is normal for anyone. I think for veterans who are trained, that you have to maintain a level of control. This is your role. That when you're out of that military situation and you're just in regular life, which is a free for all, when you're not able to keep your lids on all of your pots, they crash hard. They crash hard, and a lot of just a default emotion is anger. And you'll have a veteran that is saying things they don't mean to say. They are isolating, leave me alone. I don't want to go hang out. And they just start caving in on themselves. And that's where we need to be prepared to avoid these 22 a day. We need to be prepared to support our loved ones through this. I'm a support for you. You don't have to have it all. I promise you, you're not going to be able to tell your veteran that they don't need to be in control, because they do. This is something that they went through training when they were young. And when they were young and impressionable, they were taught they have to be in control. But this is things that we can watch for. We can watch for those signs of depression when they're not able to seem like they're really controlling the situation, to support them. Where can I help out? How can I get you help? And understanding that you're there for them, and help them through. This is really hard when a veteran feels like they're not living up to their expectations of themselves. It's huge, and it could manifest in a lot of different ways.
Right, and that's an excellent point. When you do have those explosions of anger, usually what follows after that is depression and guilt that you did this. Oh my God, I can't believe I did this in front of my family and this and by doing that, that's when we get into danger zones where other ideas start popping into the head. So that's exactly right, Jen. That's about the time where it's like, no, hold on a second. I'm your teammate. We're going to get through this. Now, just tell me what you need, and I'm going to get you help here. Is an excellent way to do it. But also let them know, hey, look, it's not that bad. We're doing fine. We're good. We're safe. We're doing it. Then that can bring them right back to the protection mode that they've been trained to do the whole time. And I know when you're dealing with that, and that lots of things can pop into your head. Okay, I've got to watch this over here. I got to watch this side over here. Oh, wait, who is that guy? That kind of stuff happens. But as long as you're working together as a team, that can take the edge off of each one of those. And as it takes the edge off of it, before you know it, everything's going nice and smooth, and it's real easy. You might have flare-ups, but then you can actually redirect and bring them back into line. Everything's going to be fine. And that is part of that protection thing that I talked about. So hopefully you guys understand that. And I think it's really important that loved ones actually are part of that, because when they understand that, it really does become a team effort. And they really do think, okay, I'm back where I need to be. This is the state, even if they're in control or not in control, that can be redirected back to where they can feel like, hey, everything's working, everything's going nice and smooth. So
I think with the 31 symptoms, one thing that I caution my veterans is when you go in and you look up the 31 symptoms and they're laid out, understand that those are clinical terms. Okay, they're clinical terms and they're referencing during different situations. So what is important is to break down those clinical terms, into to a lay understanding where you can then make the identification. Oh yeah, this is me. This is something I do all the time, or this is, you know, my wife says. So I always, when I'm referring my veterans to review those 31 symptoms, I'm warning them, listen, this is going to hallucinations and delusions. Sounds like somebody whose cheese has completely slipped off their cracker, but it's not. It is it's intimidating, and you're going to instantly go, that's not me. But when you break it down to layman's terms and you break it down to potential scenarios that you may identify with, that's when you're like, gosh, yeah, my consistent delusion is that when I'm out in a crowd, people are targeting me. I'm not safe. So I'm trying to make eye contact with everybody. Somebody bumps into my shoulder in a crowd and it's over. That's a delusion related to your safety that increases your anxiety. And then it manifests in, however that scenario manifests. But those are things that reading the list isn't going to do you any good. Understanding and breaking down those clinical terms into for a lay understanding is going to help you best, because the best way to psych eval, CMP, the best way to articulate the symptoms and impairments that you're dealing with is to share examples. And unless you understand those clinical terms as they relate to you, you're not going to be able to do that. So there's a little bit of work involved. Studying, conversations. And this is another reason why we encourage, do your CMP on your own. Obviously, shut the door, be vulnerable away from your wife or your kids or whoever is your support system, but prep with them, bring them into the situation and let them help you make those identifications. It's very important so that you can have an accurate evaluation and be able to really, really articulate those symptoms as they manifest in the certain situations that they do socially and at work or in a work-like setting. So understand the big picture of how to prep.
There's no such thing as too much communication. There's a right time and a right place for certain situations and conversations, like you just mentioned. In the heat of the moment, you definitely have to be aware of the conversation and the subject. But yeah, absolutely. And that's what I encourage with my veterans as well. Find a loved one, find someone that knows you really, really well, or you feel comfortable talking about these situations or these symptoms or, mental health in general. It's not an easy thing to do. And a lot of veterans, that will prevent veterans from making that leap, kind of being uncomfortably vulnerable. But I always encourage them to do that prior to that CMP exam, because, not only will you maybe dig into symptoms that you have been kind of pushing down, but I feel like, just personally, I think it's much better to open up with a loved one and someone that you really trust, prior to doing it with a stranger.
Hey, brothers and sisters in the uniform, hopefully you enjoyed today. I urge you to reach out to those brothers and sisters that are hurting. Let's make sure that we take care of each other and build this community, because we actually have a community that deserves, and we deserve this type of family. So you guys take care of each other. We love you, and we'll see you next time. Y'all have a great one.